So a couple days ago, I found what I believe to be the worst contribution to the discourse on white leftists on the internet so far. You guys want to see it?
White leftists are exactly the same as their white counterparts on the right side of the spectrum in that they are single issue voters.
Whoa, coming in hot there. I do not think that's right, but let's let him explain.
They are. White leftists are 100% single issue voters.
Oh, well, gee, I mean, yeah, when you put it that way, I guess I have no choice but to agree with you.
It's just that instead of the single issue being something like abortion, which you find on the right side of the aisle, white leftists have made their single issue this incredibly narrow stance on Gaza and Palestine in general.
The incredibly narrow stance of what exactly? Not funding genocide? By the way, withholding support from a candidate for their material support of genocide does not make somebody a single issue voter. It makes them decent and principled. A single issue voter would be somebody who aligns with a pro-genocide Democrat like Joe Biden, for example, in all areas except that, and then supporting somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene for her anti-Israel stance. No leftists, white or otherwise, are doing that.
Something that is quite literally impossible to obtain in today's political climate in the United States.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, don't bother explaining what that incredibly narrow stance is. Also, you say that it's impossible to obtain people with morals, but no, it's not.
Kind of like how ending any and every type of abortion in the United States is an impossible task on the right side of the aisle. The anti-abortion base holds up these pictures of dead fetuses and claim that a genocide is happening every single day in the United States as a result. Meanwhile, white leftists hold up pictures of dead Palestinians and use literal children as their poster children.
Can you spot the difference between those two statements? The right holds up pictures of dead fetuses to claim that there's a genocide happening, while we hold up pictures of dead Palestinians because there is a genocide happening. I mean, are you implying that that's not what's going on? Is that what your claim is? Your claim is that we're exaggerating the genocide? The fact that there are so many pictures of dead Palestinians should be raising alarm bells for us all, not be hand-waved away as just an unavoidable part of doing politics in America.
For their own reductive anti-progressive agenda.
Which is what, again? Oh, right. Opposition to genocide. Right. Got it.
White leftists have colonized the Palestinian movement and turned Gaza, the West Bank, all of Palestine into a thought-terminating cliche.
Have we? Is that what we're doing? Tell me, what thought should we be giving to the most well-documented genocide in the history of humanity? What could the other side possibly have to argue? The pro-genocide side. What could their argument possibly be that we need to listen to?
All for a feeling of moral superiority.
Brother, we do not need to stoop to thought-terminating cliches in order to have the moral high ground over somebody who treats genocide as if it's just another issue.
White leftists have removed any and all nuance from this issue.
Okay, then what nuance should there be? When is supporting genocide okay?
Much like how our siblings on the right side of the aisle have removed any sort of nuance when it comes to the issue of abortion.
All right, you know what? I'll humor you. Let's compare the nuance that has been removed from these two issues, okay? What could the other side possibly have to say? For people who oppose abortion, the other side could say things like, bodily autonomy says that a person should have the right to decide whether they remain pregnant or not. The pro-choice side also says, in cases of rape, incest, medical complications that threaten the life of the person who's pregnant, right? The other side would say that abortion should be an option that's available to them. For the anti-genocide people, the other side could say nothing. There's nothing that they can say to justify that. Genocide causes pain, cruelty, death, destruction. There's no positive spin that you can put on a genocide. It is genocide. It's bad. Period. The end.
And what we're seeing play out in real time in certain political races across the United States are white leftists running interference for the right-wing authoritarian regime, using the single issue of Palestine
Of genocide, continue.
as cover for their unprocessed, unpacked, deeply held racist beliefs.
Beliefs like what, exactly? What are these beliefs that you're talking about? I watched this whole video and I didn't see you explain them once. Maybe I just missed it?
Because if you look at one of these political races, much like the Democratic Senate primary race that's happening right now in Texas, there is a lot of hate and racism and critique
Whoa, hold on there, buddy. One of those things is not like the others.
of a black woman running to unseat John Cornyn, an old white man.
Wait, I thought you said it was a Democratic primary. Is John Cornyn a Democrat? Or... Oh.
And white leftists are saying she's not good enough.
Was that the hate and racism that you mentioned earlier?
Whereas if you actually sit down and do a modicum of research into Jasmine Crockett and her voting record and what she stands for, you will see that she is objectively more progressive.
Then who? The Republican that's not running against her in the Democratic primary that you wanted to talk about? Great point. Also, let's go ahead and do a modicum of research and see what we find. Okay, so she voted to, quote, stand with Israel as it defends itself against a barbaric war launched by Hamas and other terrorists. She voted to sanction parties supporting Hamas, which really just means Palestinian resistance to Israel's genocide, financially. She voted to condemn support of Hamas, Hezbollah, and other terrorist organizations on college campuses, as well as any and all forms of anti-Semitism, which we all know just means opposition to their genocide. And she also voted to cut UNRWA relief funds. So, yeah, okay, great. Modicum done.
But because white leftists have not taken the time to properly unpack their deeply held racist beliefs,
Which, again, are what exactly?
they still hold a lot of tenets of white supremacy culture that include things like purity testing,
Thought-terminating cliche. It's not a purity test to demand that our representatives oppose bombing children in their own homes. By the way, the term purity test is quite literally a thought-terminating cliche. Its entire purpose is to shield candidates from criticism on their positions and their voting record.
moral superiority.
Being anti-genocide is morally superior than not being anti-genocide, so yeah, I guess I'll have to give you that one.
White saviorism,
Literally has nothing to do with what you're talking about.
you name it.
No, you name it. You're the one saying it, so you name it. None of your arguments hold up to even a modicum of scrutiny. This entire video is full of dead ends and straight up garbage claims. The main thrust of this steaming pile of shit seems to be white leftists won't support a black Democrat just because she has voted to support the genocide in Palestine and says things like this.
This relationship between Israel and the United States has existed since before I was born. And guess what? This relationship will continue on in perpetuity even after I'm gone.
If she wins this primary, she will be running for an office where she'll be one of about 100 people. There's 100 senators. A few more people have more influence than them. There's about 100 plus people who could change that. Her saying that this will never change before she even has the opportunity to fight for a change does not bode well for changing that relationship. But no, if you listen to liberals like Phil here, that's not what's important. What's important is her identity as a black woman, I guess. That's what matters. By the way, that is the end of that video. So if you were waiting for him to actually give any kind of like support, any data, anything at all that supports his conclusions, yeah, so am I. To recap, white leftists are exactly the same as white Republicans and MAGA because we don't see room for debate on the topic of the systematic murder of the Palestinian people in the name of Israel. That's what makes us exactly the same as Republicans. What the fuck is wrong with these people? As if there's any amount of progressiveness that can make up for material support of genocide. As if a candidate being black is a good enough reason for any of us to disregard that. Liberals, I am begging you to try to understand that some of us care more about what our representatives do than who they are. Why do you never hear what you call hate and racism from us going toward women like Cori Bush, Ayanna Pressley, Summer Lee, or Ilhan Omar? Why do you think you never hear us hate and racisming them? It's almost as if our criticism of Jasmine Crockett comes from her record, not her identity. And by the way, that's a record that she told us to look up ourselves when she was given the opportunity to clear the air after her initial announcement that she was running for Senate. Now, of course, this video is not meant to be a comprehensive critique on Jasmine Crockett. I actually have more of a favorable opinion of Jasmine Crockett than this video would make it seem. I mean, of course, I don't support her voting for those pro-Israel things. I also have a few issues with some of the, corporate funding that she's gotten, but whatever. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the way that liberals will use a candidate's identity or their affiliation with the Democratic Party a lot of the time as cover for valid criticism of their platform. They don't respond to the arguments made. They just call them racist. They just call them reductive or anti-progressive. There wasn't a single refutation in that video. It was just condemnation of leftists for criticizing, along with giving hate and racism to Jasmine Crockett. When we say something like Jasmine Crockett has voted to send weapons to Israel, a country that's committing genocide in Gaza and also to the West Bank, a valid response to that is not, but she's black. A valid response to that would be some reason why that's okay. Now, there is not a reason why that's okay, but that would at least be a valid response. If you do think there is context that validates those votes, I am willing to listen to you and I'd like to hear it, but that's not what we just saw. In fact, for the most part, all I've seen from liberal content creators is stuff like that. Kind of goes back and forth between like just straight up free of substance deflection to pure projection. Projection like when he accuses us of purity testing as a thought-terminating cliche. Mind you, what these people call purity testing, like I said, is designed to terminate thought. It is a thought-terminating cliche. When they call that purity testing, they are shutting down any discourse that the purity test is designed to bring up. When we do what you call purity testing, it's the opposite of thought terminating. It is thought encouraging. It is designed to get you to think about who you're defending. Think about the policies of these people. Think about the platform that they've put out there and their record in Congress if they have one. Phil here makes a bunch of references to John Cornyn when he's defending Jasmine Crockett, but the only positive thing that he really said about her was that she's objectively more progressive, which, like, if you're saying that she's more progressive than John Cornyn, yeah, of course she is. He's a Republican. Nobody ever doubted that. Saying that the Democrat who, like I said, has voted in Congress to support Israel multiple times is more progressive than a Republican is just not a good cover for those pro-Israel votes. Remember, these people need to be held accountable. That is our main job as the electorate here when we take place in electoral politics. Hold them accountable and make them earn our votes or lose. It really is that simple.